Hello and welcome everyone. I'm Rod Bland. I'm the founder of Rod Bland Agency, and with me today is James Mayer from Klaviyo. G'day, James. How you going?
G'day, Rod. Thanks for having me.
Cool. Well, I can see we've got a number of people have tuned in already, so thanks for that. Now, before we get started, it's always great to know where people are tuning in from. So it's, what is it, 10 a.m. in Sydney, it's 8 a.m. in Perth, it's around 7 or 8 p.m. in the United States, but not Tuesday, actually Monday, and it's the middle of the night in the UK. So wherever you're from, it'd be great to hear from you. Just drop a comment. G'day, Ambika from Melbourne. Thanks for joining in. Appreciate your support. I will do shout outs to people, so don't be shy. Just drop your comment and let us know where you're from. We've got Aaron Miller from Sydney. Morning, Aaron. Thanks for joining me. I'm in Hillsdale. Whereabouts are you, Aaron? So just as far as what the format of today goes, it's all about Klaviyo. So we're just going to be, it's going to be fairly informal. I'm going to ask James a question about Klaviyo, and he'll probably spend a couple of minutes on that. And then we are going to be taking questions from the audience. Oh, we've got Wayne Shelley is joining us as well. G'day, Wayne. Wayne's spends a lot of time in the Neto user group. And Aaron's coming from Mount Karingai. Okay, that's miles away from where I am. So as far as we want to take a lot of questions from the audience, we don't want to spend a lot of time us talking about what we want to talk about. We want to talk about what you guys want to talk about. So as far as the format for the questions go, just so that I don't lose them in the comments, if you just type Q in the comment and then have your question after that, I'll then be able to tag that comment, and then we'll come back and we'll answer those questions as best we can. But for the moment, if you are just tuning in, just say hi in the chat. Let us know where you're from. You're in Sydney's Klaviyo office, aren't you, James?
I am. We're in Sydney's flashy new Klaviyo office here at 420 George Street in the heart of the city. We moved here perhaps about 6 months ago now, and so we're still finding our feet.
It is pretty flashy. I like your kitchen. You've got the unlimited fridge.
The unlimited fridge that gets stocked up every Tuesday. Lots of snacks. Everyone's putting on a couple of kilos though.
Okay. So, all right. Well, while people are dialing in, I'm going to ask you my first question that I have, which I often get from people. Thanks, Aaron. I'm going to star your question, and we'll come back to that one in a second. So my question is, why are brands migrating from other platforms over to Klaviyo?
That's a question that comes up in probably every single call that I have. And I think the easiest way that I've been able to break it down has been that brands are looking for ways to ingest all of their customer data. Technology is moving so fast with new innovation across new loyalty platforms, e-commerce sites, payment platforms, marketing automation. There are so many new digital touch points that we're having with our customers. So brands have been moving across to Klaviyo, looking for a method to seamlessly ingest all of this customer information. So with robust integrations and APIs, we're able to input all of this data into the platform, but then actually making sense of it, having that little brain to go, yep, this is Rod Bland, and these are all of the digital interactions he's had with our brand. And then it's the smart layer of experiences across email, SMS, and push notifications that enable marketers and business owners to go, great, now that I've got all of this information on who my customers are and how they're interacting with my brand, I've now got these fantastic and easy to use tools that are intuitive specifically for marketers to engage with them in personalized manners at scale.
Cool. All right, that's good. I can tell you've answered that question a number of times before. So we've got one from Aaron. Thanks, Aaron, for this. So, which is the best integration between Neto and Klaviyo, and why? So it's probably one that I'll need to take on that one.
Definitely.
So there's a number of integrations between Klaviyo and Neto. And I can only speak to the one that I use, Aaron. So I use an integration that was originally developed by Perceptive Digital, and it's a direct plugin as a custom script. So there's two aspects to it. There's the custom script that does all the event handling, and then there is another slight add-on that allows the pop-up forms to work. So rather than having a plugin. I know there's a couple of other developers that have developed a plugin that you pay a monthly fee for. I personally use that direct custom script, and it's evolved over time. Like I've added additional functionality to it, and it's very robust. Like I've heard people whinge about some of the other plugins, and not to say there's anything wrong with them. It's just been my experience, and I've done around 35 migrations from other platforms and put customers on Klaviyo, and yeah, it's pretty rock solid. It's even with a high volume store, it works really well. So I tend to stick with that, given that there isn't any official integration. It's still a really good solution, and once it's installed, there's no additional monthly fee that goes with it, and it uses that functionality for scripts that's already existing there in Neto as well. So hopefully that answers that question for you, mate. So I guess I probably should say a bit about what I do in case nobody knows, because I forgot to mention that before. So I'm a Klaviyo Gold Master Partner, and with my agency, we primarily help people migrate from other systems, especially if they're on Neto, from say MailChimp or SmarterMail or the other applications like that don't have the functionality that Klaviyo has, and we bring them across to Klaviyo. So I'd say that's our main speciality, as well as the automation side of things. So we help people get the most out of the automated side of Klaviyo. Part of what we do is help people clean their lists, maximize the number of people they're sending emails to, maximize open and click rates. But the thing about being in business in general, not just e-commerce, is that especially if you've got a small to medium business, you want to use automations as much as you can to save you time, because otherwise you just get overwhelmed. And so we always are trying to deliver at least 10 to 15, sometimes 20% or more of additional revenue to Ecom businesses with the automation. So once you set them up, it's not completely set and forget, but it's very little work that you have to do once the automations are complete, and they will run in the background for them by themselves, and they'll send personalized messaging to your customers, and that's primarily what we help people with. So I've got a question here from Ambika. Thank you for that. So what are the best practices to increase conversions through flows, and which flows must be added to our account beside abandoned cart, checkout, and browse? Great question. Is there any part of that you want to handle, James?
Yeah, I guess I can throw my 2 cents in there, and then Rod, you can take over and add anything else that you think is more relevant. In terms of what are the best practices for increasing conversion through flows, Klaviyo is really powerful from an analytics standpoint. So being able to understand things like which path customers are converting higher through A/B testing is something that I'd highly recommend, and just truly understanding what channel they want to be communicated on as well. So now having access through email, SMS, and push, customers have a stronger affiliation for various channels. So understanding which channel is going to yield you the highest conversion rate is really important when understanding who your customers are. The second component, or the second part of your question here, is what additional flows can you add apart from abandoned cart and checkout and browse? One that I would highly recommend is your welcome series if you haven't already. So attached to your sign up form to help educate and inform any new prospects or customers who are coming to your website. Some brands use things like a first purchase 10% off discount code to attract those leads to complete the sign up form. And then from there, going down into a welcome series. But from a Klaviyo standpoint, the 3 highest performing flows, so your welcome series, your abandoned cart, and your browse abandonment. Other ones that I think, Rod, you've had success with are things like post-purchase flow. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, definitely agree to start with those 3. I just want to do a quick shout out to Alcoholics. So Alcoholics are sponsoring today's live stream, and I'm also going to be using their control panel to answer questions like this. So thanks to the guys at Alcoholics. If you've got anything that you need for to do with aquariums, they are the guys to see, and they've been around for a very long time. They're real experts. So I've just wanted to say a bit more about that. Now, as far as the welcome flow goes, it's fed by a few different inputs. So one is if you've just got a general subscribe form, on the bottom of your website, Mbeka, then there will be those people then go into a list. Typically, they go into the newsletter list, and then that then triggers the flow associated with that. So that's one way that people get into that list. But not many people will fill out just the general footer. That's the footer form that's at the bottom of your website. The primary way that you'll get people into that list would be through some sort of pop-up. So it's going to be a pop-up that you've seen different types around. One is where people are invited to sign up for a discount. Might be to sign up for a competition flow. We tend to use that a lot with clients where they don't discount as part of the general business practice, but they give away a $100 coupon code and offer that as through a pop-up, and then people go into that flow, and then so they get a confirmation that they've entered the competition, and then we then have a series of emails that come after that then encourage people to take that next step if they haven't already made a purchase. So that works really well. And you might think that people just entering competition doesn't lead them to purchase, but it's just amazing how many people actually end up making that. So if you've already got content that you've produced that you have on your website, like especially if you're a Neto store, like blog posts or articles, then you can repurpose those and you can link to those in that flow, and you can set up a series of emails that are separated by a few days apart. And each time an email is sent, before the next one gets sent, the Klaviyo flow just checks to see have they already made a purchase or not. And if it hasn't, then they'll get the next email in the series. So it's a great way to warm people up to your brand, make them aware of additional content that you've produced over time, and that would be the one. So if your question was which flows must be added to our account besides abandoned cart, checkout, and browse. So so your welcome flow, and then post-purchase flows are useful where, so once somebody's already made a purchase, especially if it's just a first-time purchase, then you can use a post-purchase flow to just say thank you for the order, and then the next day you could also say these are our frequently asked questions, because people often have questions about what's going to happen next with the order. So you can answer those questions through frequently asked questions, and then you can then have a look at, okay, what categories do you have across your brand? So if we take Alcoholics as an example, they have one of their categories is fish food, and one of their categories is live fish. So if somebody has purchased a live fish, well, then they're definitely going to want some fish food to go with that, right? So in that post-purchase flow, the next day after, we'd say, okay, well, this is our recommended fish food for your particular fish. They also get sent information about how long does it take. They've got special shipping times that are associated with it. Another client who sells seeds, they have vegetable seeds, they've got flower seeds. So you can set your flow up so that if somebody's only purchased vegetable seeds, we can recommend these are our most popular flower seeds, and this is why it's a great idea to add flowers to a vegetable garden and then link to content. So you can use those post-purchase flows to encourage people to make that second purchase as well. So hopefully that answers that question for you, Mbeka. I've got another one here from Isabel from Australian Home Brewing. I'm pretty sure yes, Isabel's one of our old clients. So where are we at with SMS in Australia? Do you consider it a must? It's still not clear, reconsent. I reckon that one's for you, James.
That one is for me. Look, Isabel, it truly does depend on the type of business that you are and the end customers that you've got. Obviously, some customers respond more favorably to the SMS channel, but what we're seeing across the Australian market is that it's absolutely taking off. New Zealand is probably a year or so behind Australia, but most brands that we're speaking to are leveraging SMS in their strategy in some way, shape, or form, whether that's through campaigns, whether it's through replenishment automations, whether it's through abandoned cart checkout. A great example that we saw during the Black Friday and Cyber Monday season of last year was incorporating it into brands' abandoned cart strategies. So rather than cutting through the enormous amount of emails that everyone's getting on those over that weekend, it's communicating through a channel that has less clutter here in Australia and has a huge success rate. So yes, I definitely do think it's a must, pending who your typical customers are. In terms of you're still not clear regarding consent, that's something that Klaviyo works with you in establishing with your customers. We do need clear consent that they've opted in for SMS marketing. And so working with your account executive, your customer success team, or your agency, or our support team, you can set up consent through sign-up forms or send it out through email campaigns, push notifications to capture that consent and grow your SMS database.
Yeah, because it's different to email, where email is if you've sold something to someone, then you have, and it's on a commercial basis, then you have implied consent. It's got to be explicit with SMS, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Cool. All right. Well, hopefully that answers that question for you, Isabel. I've got the folks from Air and Tuckers, one of my clients. Thanks to guys for tuning in. I appreciate your support. So this is probably from one of Kane's team. So if, for those of you who don't know, Air is, you'll see Air and the associated, they're actually owned by Elders, and there's Air and Tuckers, and they're like regional stores that are in all regional areas. So you'll never see them in capital cities, but you'll often see them in regional areas, and they areas, everything to do with the farm, livestock, fencing, all that sort of stuff. So that's hence the name Australian Independent Rural Retailers. So besides the basic flows, what other advanced flows are mostly used in retail? So I think it's probably more of the same of what we asked, the question from Mbika about what are the best practices. I think definitely when we talk about abandoned cart, it's also important that we have there's a distinction between abandoned cart and abandoned checkout. Now, if you've got a Shopify integration, or actually I think you guys have got a WooCommerce integration, but it's like a customized one. But in any case, you want to try to separate those two events if you can. So that because when somebody abandons a cart, technically, if they've added something to their shopping cart, that is what is called added product to cart. That's the event that Klaviyo would normally track. But they may not actually make it to the checkout page. So you really want to try and follow those people up if you possibly can. And then, of course, an abandoned checkout is somebody has made it to the checkout page but have not proceeded, with their payment. So you want to try to capture both those if you can. Browse abandonment is good. For all of our clients, we also do what we call, is it site abandonment? God, I've got a mental blank all of a sudden. Where am I? Yeah, site abandonment. So that's literally when someone has only visited the site. They haven't even made it to a collection page or a product page at this stage. And there's different ways that you can handle that. And sometimes it's just showing people the same, whatever product was that they visited, and just giving them another look at it. Other brands like to include the product that they've looked at, and we've got working on one idea with another client, include the product they've looked at plus a couple of others that are from the same category, and then talk and just providing them with some general content. So it's a little less creepy in terms of this is what you just looked at. It's a little more, this is to help you, as far as in your purchase journey. And then once people have made that next step, they get dropped out of that flow. So it's important to remember with Klaviyo that it just allows you to really tailor your messaging so that people aren't being bombarded with emails. So you can work your flows. So you site abandonment at the top, then browse abandonment. So that's when they're looking at a product page, and then you work your way down to the cart and the checkout. And at each step of the way, you drop people out of the flow if they go to the next step. So if somebody's just went to your site and then they went into the flow for the site abandonment, but they actually made it to the checkout page, well, they'll skip those. They'll get immediately dropped out of that flow, and they'll just enter the checkout, the abandoned checkout flow. So that would be one thing. And then I'd also have a look at your post-purchase flows. I think particularly for you guys where you've got a lot of, feed and other things that are repeat purchases, and you've got multiple categories, it's worthwhile. If somebody's bought livestock feed, maybe they don't know, maybe they could, there's like pet feed. If somebody's bought things to do with irrigation, maybe there's also fencing. You can recommend different things. And if you've got articles that you've written about, best practice in that area, that's where you can recommend, you can repurpose that content just to make people familiar with that and make them aware of other products that you've got available as well. And that's really making the most of your existing customer base rather than relying on, new ones coming in so much. Hopefully that answers that question for you. So there is...
Jump in there as well,
James.
Rod.
Yeah.
customer win-back series. So re-engaging any customers who perhaps have fallen out of your sales funnel and have purchased from you for a period of time, whatever that might be. Really lean into the predictive analytics model that Klaviyo has developed into the individual profiles, understanding customer behaviors about when they're going to make their next purchase, how much that purchase is going to be, and that expected date of next purchase or churn date, really. And then setting up smart automations or flows to bring those people back in to make a purchase. It might be something that you proactively do before that date of next that churn date, or it might be something that you do after the fact. However, your marketing strategy looks like, offering for your whatever that strategy will look like. What is that offering that's going to entice those customers to come back and complete a purchase?
Yep. So you mentioned some of those predictive analytics. I was just seeing whether I might be able to bring up that in an example profile. Yeah, I've got my own. I don't want to expose customer information, but I thought maybe I might have one on my particular profile with alcoholics, but I don't. So there's what are the predictive analytics? There's one which is predicted date of next purchase, and it's the
how much
value.
that purchase is going to be. So historical customer lifetime value versus predicted customer lifetime value equates to how much
that's over like a 12-month period, isn't it?
Yeah, correct. And so the more data that you've got feeding into Klaviyo with customer interactions, the more intelligent this functionality becomes.
Yeah, and that's actually really useful because you can export that data with the predictive analytics as well. So you can use that to create, or actually you don't even need to export it, but you can use it to create segments of your higher value customers based on their predictive analytics. So not just on what they've actually purchased, but what they're predicted to have purchased, and you can, create higher value segments around that as well, which is pretty handy. So, all right, thanks for that, James. Let's throw another one up from Ambika here. We send one email campaign per week to our customers, then resend to non-openers after 2 to 3 days. How can we ensure this doesn't cause email fatigue and we can reduce unsubscribe rate? Great question. I've got an answer for that. Did you want to say anything about that, James?
Fire from the hip, Rod.
All right, cool. So there's 2 ways you can do the resend. So you can do like you're doing, Ambika, where you do the resend to non-openers. Now, it's important when you set this up, because a lot of people take advantage of using when they do the sending in the recipient's local time. But if you send not at a specific time, let's say you send it at 10 a.m. Sydney time, you then have the option to cause Klaviyo to resample that segment at the time of sending. And what that means is that up until that very second, it's making sure that, because if you're sending it to your non-openers, you would have created a segment of people that consisted of those who have not yet opened that email, or perhaps even those that have, and you're excluding them. So you want that segment to be as up-to-date as possible. So instead of sending in their particular local time, send it at a specific time. That'll give you the option to tick the box to say, I think it's resample the segment. I forget what the exact wording is. Anyway, it allows you to be really nail that, so that as much as possible, you are truly only sending that email to people who have not already opened that email. I'd also make sure that when you do the resend, and if you've been on my YouTube channel at all, you would have seen the video I've created about this, which is change the subject line, so that way it's not going to appear in the same conversation thread. And at the same time, if you get really high open rates, like say 60% plus, I've got one client, Built Insider, who's like this, where people are really loyal to the brand. They get really high open rates, and sometimes you can just resend the entire list again, just as a reminder. So if you just change your wording a little, just in case you missed it, especially if it's some sort of special offer that has a time limit on it, people are often quite receptive to seeing that a second time around, because they did get it the first time, they did look at it, but they didn't action it, and they don't mind. Like, I wouldn't do that all the time, but mix it up. So sometimes send to your non-openers, sometimes send to the entire list again. So, just by sending to the non-openers, that does reduce the email fatigue. Now, as far as the unsubscribe rate, I would say as long as your unsubscribe rate is generally under 0.02%, I think, or is it 0.2%, James? I forget now. I think it's 0.2. The general best practice is, if it's under 0.2, don't be too concerned about unsubscribe rates. I think a lot of people, I always say to people, if you've got a good brand, the onus is on you to market well to your customers. Now, this is the reason why we have unsubscribe available. If people don't want to hear from you via email, then, let them unsubscribe and accept the fact that some people are going to do that. But don't be afraid to incur unsubscribes, because it can get in the way of you actually marketing well. And the onus is on you to market well, especially your loyal customers. They want you to be in contact with them. So that's much as I have to say about that. You got anything to add, James?
Yeah, I would also just going back to the bare basics of segmentation and how can we personalize this group of unengaged audiences. It might be that they haven't opened an email with you in the last 3 months. And so how could you go back to the drawing board and understand who these customers are and start to cut up the content and actually serve relevant content, but also personalize what you're showcasing inside the body of those emails. Might help with the open and the click-through rates, but also your unsubscribe rate too.
Yeah. And if you've got I think that's your unsubscribers 0.7, I'd say that's a little high. Now, can be a couple of reasons for that. One is you've not done a list clean for a long time. So generally we only see that if, say, somebody has, they've got their opted-in list, but they've never sent emails to their non-opted-in list. And we always encourage people to try to resurrect as many of those people as you can. If they've made a purchase from you before, you've got implied consent, let's try to resurrect them. So initially when you start emailing to those people, starting with those who purchased most recently and working your way backwards, your unsubscribe rates can be a little high. But once you've sent like at least say 4 or 5 emails, then you can go and say, okay, which of these people got all these emails but didn't open any? Let's unsubscribe, let's suppress those. And so my guess is that you need to do a list clean and just suppress those who have, if you're sending an email every week, I'd say if somebody, you can create the segment to say, okay, if they've received at least 15 emails, but they've not opened any and they've not clicked on any, then I would suppress those people. And it does 2 things. It increases your general open rate, it decreases your unsubscribe rate, and it also often helps with your fees as well. Okay, so thank you for all the questions, guys. Let me just see if I missed any. All right, so if you've just tuned in, we're just having a discussion about Klaviyo, best practices for Klaviyo, how it helps e-commerce businesses do better with their business, how to send more customized and tailored messaging to your customers. And I've got James from Klaviyo joining me, and we are currently taking questions from the audience. Just if you have a question, then just type Q and your question in the comments. We'll be online for a little bit longer, and this will also be available as a replay as well. So yeah, don't be afraid to drop a question in. And if you're just joining us, then just say hi in the chat. Let us know where you're from as well. We'd appreciate that. So I think I've grabbed all the. All right, James. Ernest. I've spoken to Ernest before from Air. Just let us know that there's a number of people on that team. Thanks for joining us, Ernest. Now let's have a look and see what else I wanted to ask you, James. I had a couple of other questions which you didn't know I was going to ask. Are you allowed to mention brands that have really, like, after they moved to Klaviyo, it's been a big success story? I guess there's probably, case studies and things on the Klaviyo website. Is there any that comes to mind that, don't mind being mentioned in person where it's made a big difference?
I'm not sure about mentioning their brand on a public forum is the best idea for me.
Yeah.
I'm going
well,
to...
how about a certain industry? That might be another way to tackle it. But go on. I interrupted you then.
Yeah, look, a certain customer that I worked with, they came on board Klaviyo in March last year. March this year. They do replenishment automations with SMS marketing exceptionally well. They've got a young audience who are really, really engaged, and their products typically need replenishment within 2 to 3 months. And so understanding that customer buying lifecycle journey and when they typically need to reorder from them, they've implemented this SMS strategy. And I think overall, some high level numbers that they've achieved something like 40.8% in Klaviyo attributed revenue. So if they've had $100,000 in sales 1 month, 40,000 of that has been attributed to Klaviyo, and a significant portion of that was coming from the SMS channel. There are other customers that are using SMS in conjunction with their service tools to connect that customer journey. And so if you send out a promotional SMS via a campaign, you can give your customers the opportunity to have two-way SMS communication with you and ask more questions like, hey, how long is this promotion available for? Or is this product right for A, B, C, or D, whatever it might be? But that's just applying that real one-to-one now personalization and experience for your customers that they're now able to engage with you on the channel of their choice, which has been really exciting.
That's brilliant. I didn't realize that you could do that, because I'm like always about the email side of things. So we've got somebody from LinkedIn that's actually joined us, and they had some tips. They're asking tips for SMS opt-ins. I can see your question there, Aaron. We'll get to that in a second. I think perhaps you just quickly revise, because I know you mentioned this before, but they might have only just joined us. As far as how you get your opt-ins for SMS, does it vary with customers, or how does that normally get handled, James?
Yeah, look, we typically put a strategy in place whenever a new customer comes on board Klaviyo to attack from a couple of different angles. But the first one being campaigns, so sending out campaigns asking for your current email database to subscribe to the SMS database or opt in for SMS marketing. What kind of promotional tactics these brands implement to incentivize these individuals to provide SMS consent is completely on a case-by-case basis with these brands. Some offer discounts, some offer access to special promotions or new product launches or VIP access. Another opportunity or another avenue to go down is through things like pop-up forms, so targeting pop-up forms. You could create pop-up forms on your website that target specific users that are inside Klaviyo who you don't have SMS consent for already. And you can even target by device as well. So if someone's come on the mobile phone, we can target them with a pop-up form and know that we don't have SMS consent for them. And as soon as they opt in for SMS consent, they'll move out of that segment and won't be shown that specific pop-up form anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty handy. We use the feature of mobile versus desktop all the time, but I think it's very, very seamless, especially for the mobile form. I think it's like isn't it just one click to get consent if you design the form correctly?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
And another one for the desktop is the multi-step sign-up form.
Yeah.
Has probably got the highest conversion rates for gaining SMS consent, because in your first step, you're only asking for things like your name and email address, which on the eye seems like the brand isn't asking for very much. So great, we'll go ahead and opt in for consent. And then the next page or the next step is asking for SMS consent. So that has the highest conversion rate from our sign-up forms.
Yeah, because psychologically people go, okay, that's not much, especially if it's just an email address. Then they hit the button. Next is, would you like to get occasional messages from us about SMS? It's like a little bit more. You've come this far, just a little bit more information, away you go. So we've got a question here from Aaron. Thanks for this, Aaron. Given that everyone is tightening their belts, what strategies do you suggest to encourage sales? So I'm guessing you're talking about everyone's tightening their belts from it's the customers that are tightening their belts. What do you think, James? What would you have as the top priorities for someone to tackle that?
Double down on retention and customer lifetime value. Every business owner, every CEO has been talking about profitability of the business over the last 3 to 6 months. So how can you make your data go further, and how can you drive more revenue through the existing data that you've currently got, because acquisition of new customers is ever increasing. So going back to my earlier point about why so many customers are switching to Klaviyo, it's because it's that agnostic solution that ingests all of your customer data. So hook it up to all of the digital touch points that your customers have with your brand, so that you've got that that 360-degree view of your customer. And then from there, you can now start to implement strategies across personalizing the communication that they're receiving across various channels. But then you can also double down in automations for things like customer win-back series, which is something that often gets overlooked, to bring those customers back in to complete a purchase. Are some areas that I would really focus on. There is also a page, Aaron, on our website that touches on Klaviyo. I think it's /profitability. But if you send me your details, or perhaps just reach out on LinkedIn, I can share some information with you on that further as well.
Yeah, I agree. There's whenever we look at a new account, because sometimes people want us to review what's going on, if the revenue that's coming from automated flows is anything, say, under 10%, then there's opportunities there. There's work that can be done to bring that up. And once you've got a complete set of automations in place, you should be at least at 15% of overall revenue coming from automated flows. I can't think of one off the top of my head, client that we've worked with, where that's not the case. Once you've got all the flows in place, so all your pre-purchase flows, all your post-purchase flows, your welcome flow, etc. So oftentimes that is people tend to focus on new acquisition a lot of the time, and you don't realize what's really there. And the opportunity, the bigger that your store turnover is, the bigger that the opportunity is, because it's just percentages. If you're doing $1 million a year, then an additional 5% is quite a bit. If it's 5 million, well, obviously the numbers are a whole lot bigger. It's the same amount of work to get it done. And I'd say it doesn't matter really what size it is. If you want to take advantage of your existing customer base, especially for people that have already purchased from you, but also making sure that those who have at least engaged with your brand have an opportunity to get to understand your brand a little better, learn more about your products and how to best use them, and then it can allow them to make a decision about whether or not to make a purchase. But it's up to you to provide them with that information and provide them with those steps that they can go through. Okay, Mbika, thank you. You've got a bunch of questions. This is your third one. Are there any practices or Klaviyo strategies to collect video testimonials or reviews from customers easily? I love this question. We have 53% returning customers, but we failed to get UGC from them. Yeah, so I have some ideas. Have you got anything in particular? Have you got a product that you would recommend in particular, James, before I dive in?
Not sure if it's public knowledge or not. But Klaviyo is coming to market within the next couple of weeks with reviews for Shopify customers. I'm not sure if that helps, Ambika.
Oh, like a Looks competitor? I think
I'm not familiar with Looks. It's reviews built into the Klaviyo platform.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Looks is it's a very popular Shopify plugin, and it's to collect customer reviews, and there is an integration with it between Klaviyo. That's interesting. That's really interesting.
Yes.
So that's one possibility, and you might have let the cat out of the bag.
Yep.
Now, as far as collecting video testimonials goes, there's actually you might just need to email me, Mbika, because I can't remember off the top of my head. I use it for my agency actually to collect reviews, and it's really seamless. So people can just put in a text review, but they can also put in a video review if they want to, and you can. There's a plug-in for your website. You can do that, and you can integrate it with. I don't know if it integrates with Klaviyo because I've sent them out manually, but there's certainly an option there. Now, the other thing that I would do is if you have a physical store, and you can actually do this even if you don't have a physical store, but particularly if you have a physical store and you have Google reviews, then you really want to make sure that you are taking advantage of that and encouraging people to submit a Google review in a post-purchase flow. So after you've locked in their delivery, so if you know that their item is delivered, now if you've got Shopify, that's easy because that is a status of fulfilled. If you have Neto not so easy, you'd have to sort of make a guess and go, okay, if it's been shipped, then let's wait 2 or 3 weeks, and then we'll invite people to submit a review. And I find that the angle, which is help out the underdog, help out small business with submitting a review, is really, it makes such a massive difference, and more people will fill out Google reviews. And obviously there's the option to include images with Google reviews. Yeah, but it's really just a matter of picking a product that, if you want the video review side of things, so give people options. So they can submit a text review if they want to, they can upload an image, they can upload a video if they want to, but you can put that all in a flow. So if you just set it up so it's in a post-purchase flow, so that it automatically gets sent to people 2 weeks after they make a purchase, set the flow up so that if they've already been in that flow before, they don't get sent it again. So it's just really for first-time purchases. That's definitely what I would be doing. So there's a couple of angles there. Use an app, take advantage of Google reviews, make sure that people are submitting those. Now, if you don't actually have a physical store, usually what I used to do with my store was I didn't have a physical store, but I had a virtual address, and that was what I tied to the Google reviews page. And then, so it still allows you to have the Google reviews, and yeah, we had thousands that way, and it just makes a big difference. Anytime people are searching, when they're doing organic searches, or even if they're in Google Shopping or whatever, those reviews come up and they just help such a massive amount with conversions.
I would also add there
go on, James.
Just integrating with your shipping management system to understand, has the package actually been delivered, and then from there having your automations trigger out the reviews email. So not sending out that email before that package has actually been delivered can often create a sour customer experience. Having it triggered shortly after the package has been delivered, or the same day, typically has a higher conversion rate for reviews being completed.
Yeah, that's a good point. So if you've got Neto, that's not part of that integration. But if you are using a product like Ship-it or Ship-it2, I think is another one, they then expose that fulfilled metric, which Klaviyo can consume and use. And so that allows you to control when those emails go out. The fulfilled metric is already built into Shopify, which Ambika has got, so you could take advantage of that there. All right, so let's have a look and see if we've got any. Yep, okay, so yeah, well, it sounds like you've got everything that you need.
You've got the perfect storm.
yeah, you can definitely take advantage of that. I think if you need any help with getting that set up, just let me know. There's, let's see if we've got any other questions here. I think we've covered everyone's questions. I can't believe we've already gone through 45 odd minutes. Did you, so I'll just recap, if you've just joined in, and you have any questions about Klaviyo, we've got James here from Klaviyo's Sydney office. He's a gun with all things. I'm a Klaviyo partner. We've been working with Klaviyo for the last 3 years. We help people migrate from other platforms, help them with it, especially with the automation side of things. Have a big focus with Neto. We work with Shopify customers, we work with WooCommerce customers, so that's what we do. If you have a question about Klaviyo, just put a Q and then type your question in. But I think we're probably coming to the end of the questions from everybody. Is there anything else that you wanted to add in before we sort of start wrapping it up, James?
No, nothing from me, Rod. This was a lot of fun. If there are any other questions before we wrap up, happy to field any questions. Or if anyone would like to connect one-on-one, feel free to add me on LinkedIn and drop me a note there. We can set up some time together. We've got an enormous Sydney team that's grown to about 60 of us now, spanning across product experts, customer success, sales, management, solution engineers. So we are all here for our customers. So if you do ever need anything directly from Klaviyo, please don't ever hesitate to reach out.
Excellent. And just from my point of view, if people, it's same for James. If you want to connect with me, you don't already have my email address, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. It's just hello@rodbland.com if you want to send an email as well. So I think we might leave it there. Look, everyone, I so appreciate the fact that everyone's tuned into these live streams. I've only just started running these, and I'm always prepared for nobody to show up, and it's really great when people do, and it just makes the whole experience much more enjoyable for all concerned. So I really appreciate your support and coming in today. Hopefully the content today has been useful. If you've only just joined in, you can rewind. This was live streamed on YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn and also Twitter. You can rewind the ones definitely on LinkedIn, YouTube and Facebook, and replay them again at any other stage. I'll go back and add in chapters so you can sort of fast forward to different spots if you want to learn about the different topics that we covered here today. James, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you taking the time out and taking a risk
Thanks for having me, Rod.
on being part of a live stream for the first time. So good for you.
Yeah, it was good fun. Thanks for having me.
All right, cool. Well, I'll probably see you in the office there at some point in the near future. Thanks, Mbika. Appreciate your support there for joining us today. And that's it. We'll leave it there, guys. So I will be running another live stream next week. If there's any other questions that you didn't get a chance to ask today, then we'll be covering Klaviyo again next week. I'll be available for that, and I'll keep running those as long as people keep tuning in and have more questions. We're trying to make it so that it's a place where people can get their questions answered on a regular basis if they want to. So, yeah, appreciate all your support, and we'll wrap it up now. Thanks very much.
Thanks, everyone.